We're going to give some Christmas gifts out to some various teams here?
Yeah, to NFL teams. So I actually gave them a list because I value the award-winning nature of this show, potential award-winning nature of this show. Yeah. So I gave them some actual suggestions so they could turn into graphics. You just bought into the concept and then ignored that.
I missed that. No.
Yeah. Okay, things that NFL teams need for Christmas. The Kansas City Chiefs. What the Chiefs really need is for the NFL to re-legalize Stick'em. So that you don't need to worry about, once you hit Kadarius Toney in the hands with the football, you don't need to worry about whether or not he snags it or not. It's going to stick to his hand, right? So Patrick Mahomes can now use his wide receivers not as equal partners in this relationship, but as literal targets. I am going to hit you with the football, and it will stick to you, and it will be a first down, and we win the game, and a Super Bowl. We repeat as champions. Everybody celebrates.
My feeling is Patrick Mahomes would use the Stick'em in a different way and maybe put it onto Kadarius Toney's buttocks.
I mean,
so that he's
coat
stuck
the man.
to the bench.
Coat the man in
So he
Stick'em.
never even makes it to the field, though.
No. I would liberally coat Kadarius Toney in Stick'em. Like, who is it, Lester Hayes, the Raiders guy that used to just everything, coat himself, right? So literally, if the ball hit him, it would stick. And then, so Patrick Mahomes just treats Kadarius Toney as a moving target and just fires the ball at him, like Peyton Manning with those kids in that ad, right? And then once it hits him, it sticks. And then it's on Kadarius Toney to just pluck the ball off his thigh where it's stuck.
That's a good gift.
That's
a good gift. I have to acknowledge. We should acknowledge that there are a lot of different sources for drop rate.
Yeah.
And so while other sources might have the Chiefs number one, we have them third total, and Mahomes doesn't have the highest drop percentage, not even close really, because he's thrown so many passes.
Yeah.
I think what's happened this year, though, is they are high-value drops.
Yes.
He has 2 drops that have led to interceptions with Toney. One's a pick six. Over the last few weeks, multiple drops in the end zone. I don't think as a percentage the drops are higher than other teams.
You want a great stat?
Yes.
So in addition to drops, we also track a bunch of other reasons for incompletions that are on the wide receiver, right? So there are some plays that I think a lot of people just fold into the bucket of drop because it's the wide receiver's fault, but it's not actually a drop, right? He didn't drop the football. He just didn't complete a catch on the football. So those plays where it goes to ground, for example, I think some places call those drops, even though he didn't drop the football. It just came out once the ground became involved, et cetera. Like he didn't complete the catch. Anyway,
if it hit your hands, you got to catch it. That's your rule.
And
right?
So there's some plays in that bucket. Anyway, when you look at the list of incompletions that were receiver fault in our categories, right, which is 4 or 5 different reasons for that, Patrick Mahomes has lost the most EPA in the NFL for incompletions that were receiver fault driven, right? So essentially, no quarterback in the league has been hosed as much by his receiver core as a collective than Patrick Mahomes, which is what you're saying. It's high leverage plays.
Yeah.
It's, the worst possible outcomes. And it is those sort of hidden plays that are not technically drops, but are receiver fault.
That's why I'm sure Pat and Chiefs fans coming running back to PFF this year. We need you guys now. We need you. Now that my PFF grade's better than my production for the first time. And
At least we need your vote. We need your vote. We're like politicians, We might abandon you later on, but right now we need your vote.
Who are we telling we need?
Everybody. Chiefs fans in particular now, but generally everybody.
Oh, okay.
We need your vote. We need you, like the
I love how you just drop
campaigns.
that at any various point.
Well, you have
to.
Yeah. That's the way it works, right? You got to keep reminding, like the radio thing, right? Every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes is a new audience.
It's true. It's true. Especially live here on YouTube. Yeah. So because we're a finalist for the best American football podcast of the year, the Sports Podcast Awards, we do need your vote. Link in the description.
Mm-hmm. See, I knew harken back to Stick'em would get Walt back on board. Walt's busy telling stories of the 1980s Raiders now.
I mean, that was when Walt's first draft board was 78, You've got Walt. Tell us about the 14-game schedule. What was that like? Must have been pretty easy as a fan.
He must have been mad just like you when they went to 16 games. Ruin all the stats.
Ruin the stats from the 60s and 70s.
All right. Do you have one of these, or do we want to go to the next one?
It's our list.
Well, you see, if we put one of yours in now, then we could disguise the fact that we don't have graphics for yours, and you could do like every other one would have a graphic instead of having all the ones up front.
I came unprepared.
So you have no preparation. You have no input in this discussion whatsoever.
My preparation for this show was putting on an elf costume.
Right.
That was my preparation.
Gotcha. So for this particular topic, you're contributing just reaction to my.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
what else you giving? You're Santa anyway. I'm merely an elf. Yeah. I think this is correct. This is the right way to do it. So you're giving out the gifts as bad Santa. Go.
As Billy Bob. For Baltimore, the Baltimore Ravens, their gift has got to be a healthy Lamar Jackson. The last couple of years, everything's come unstuck late in the year when Lamar Jackson got hurt, despite Gordon, the Pro Bowl selection of Tyler Huntley as his backup. They are the number one seed in the AFC right now. They are a contender, and particularly this year, the Chiefs aren't what we thought they would be. The Bills aren't really what we thought they would be, at least outside of that Dallas game. There might not be, a true heavyweight, and this is a year Baltimore can win the Super Bowl if Lamar Jackson stays healthy.
I had to look it up for the humor in it.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson's a 2-time Pro Bowler. Only one more than Tyler Huntley.
Lamar Jackson, he has one more Pro Bowl than Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson's been in the league 6 years. Started the better part of 5 years. Tyler Huntley's only been a starter really for
6 games. Yeah.
Just saying. Maybe Huntley's the better option. Maybe you're missing the boat here.
I don't think that's
true. If
true.
you're just looking at Pro Bowls.
Yeah. If you're just looking at Pro Bowls.
No, it's good. Yeah, a healthy Lamar Jackson's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, the Ravens have won 75% of their games with Lamar Jackson as starter in the regular season. Of course, in the playoffs, they're 1-3. It's early, but we need more. We need more playoff reps. Lamar has not started a playoff game since 2020. It's been a few years now because of those injuries, and it's time to get back there for Lamar. See a healthy Lamar Jackson and what they can do, and it'll be fun around playoff time because there'll be some Lamar Jackson playoff narratives that creep back in. The stats are not great. The results, as I mentioned, 1-3, they're not great. In 2019, they were the number one seed, got upset.
At least he got the one though. God, if we were still
Tennessee
dealing with this, can't even win a game.
He did get the one win in 2020. Then they lost to Buffalo, I believe. I believe it was. It's much needed for the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, they lost to Buffalo 17-3 after they beat. Who did they beat? Where's my memory?
They have got all the monkeys,
the
on their backs that they had in terms of can't win a playoff game, can't beat the Chiefs, like all those sort of things that were being held up. They've at least gotten one game that's rid them of that, so we can't, hold that narrative over them.
But it's gonna pop up if the Ravens are the number one seed, and if they blow it again, if Kansas City comes into town, or if they don't even make it to play the Chiefs, and then Mahomes has never played a road playoff game. And so it's on the Ravens, potentially. If they lose, then, Mahomes plays at home again. I mean, there's a lot coming around playoff time, and a lot of it depends on Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good gift, Santa.
Thank you. Santa's next gift from his sack is a giant run-stuffing defensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys to stop what happened against Buffalo happening again, because that ruins them, right? If they run up against a team that even isn't like a known running team. Like, it's not like Buffalo has this dominant ground game that you're like, oh no, if we hit the Bills, we're dead. They just found a team that wasn't going to let their pass rush be a factor, and they got run all over. And generally, run defense has been the Achilles heel of this team for a couple of years. They have brought in players to address that. They've also gotten better in that regard. But this game showed, I think, that it's still a weakness, and it's still the biggest weakness on a team that otherwise has looked potentially dominant. And I kind of wonder...
Are you forgetting about Jonathan Hankins?
I'm not forgetting about him.
Who missed that game.
Yeah, I just think that they need more help in addition to that. And I wonder, we saw last year, right? Philadelphia brought in Linval Joseph and his 900 pounds to just solidify it for a little bit, give Jordan Davis a break, that kind of thing. I kind of wonder if Dallas would be in the market for something like that. Like, who is the largest immobile lump we can think of that's currently sitting on the couch? Bring him in, give him a roster spot, give him 20 snaps a game, and let's just shore things up.
I mean, they have Hankins is interesting because the PFF grading's not great for him, but the on-off splits over the last 2 years are massive. And our friend Nate Tice from The Athletic, he's a big believer in Hankins and those on-off splits. He's a big believer in that. And the old adage of, taking 2 blockers. And I honestly, he's only played 140, 150 run defense snaps this year.
He seems to be quite a big believer in on-off splits generally, Nate.
Well, I think a lot of times with analysis, it's available.
I'm sure some of them are legit.
A lot of it's availability, right? So The Athletic is connected with whatever data sources they have. And the data sources that they have made it easy to look at on-off splits. At PFF, as a product manager over here, we haven't done a great job of being able to find on-off splits. Had I done a better job of doing that and making that available to you and to our customers, then
you think I would be a big fan of on-off
we might
splits.
be bigger fans of it. I mean, it's worth investigating stuff, but I think a lot of it might be noisy. I think the Hankins thing's interesting because I want to go back and look at the specific plays and where that is. But clearly, I mean, the Cowboys, it's not just that. It's because they have Marquise Bell playing linebacker as he's 205-pound safety.
Sure.
Playing linebacker. So, like, those things are...
Yeah, I mean, Leighton Vander Esch's spot is now taken up by a much smaller, not as good player. Like, that's the thing as well. I just think that the single biggest fix they could make is...
No, it's a good gift. The interesting thing, too, with this whole story, though, is they drafted Mozzie Smith for that reason.
Right, who hasn't done that job.
And he was rough in the preseason, anchoring against double teams, right? And there is something to just anchor against the double team. Just don't let them create movement. Just don't let them get to the linebackers. Mozzie Smith, not great at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think
Sam.
they have improved in that area. I just think that they could still stand to improve more, and that at the moment is still their Achilles heel. So, Big Linval is essentially what Santa is gifting the Dallas Cowboys.
Linval, all right. Big Linval Joseph.
Yep. For the Philadelphia Eagles, within the same division, Santa is gifting them the 2022 version of James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Oof. Big play Slay, as he insists on being called. Or just Slay, like Prince. Or,
Slay.
It's just Slay. There's no Darius.
Tariq was battling with that.
I know.
Last week.
He's
like, listen, we were in the meeting. He said, just call me Slay.
Yeah. Like Sting. Just Sting.
Just like
It's
Sting.
not Mr. Sting. It's not, James Sting. It's just Sting.
Who's the most quintessential Sting? Is it the musical artist or the wrestler?
I was never a big WCW fan, so I was never a big Sting guy. So I would default to the Police version of Sting.
It's probably, for most people, that's probably it. For me, it's the face-painted, blonde-haired Sting turned crow Sting.
Either way, they both fit because they're both just Sting.
Yeah. But he's going for Slay.
Yes. Either way, both those guys were playing at a Pro Bowl / All-Pro caliber level a year ago and for less money. And this year, neither one of them is playing well. Bradbury just got wrecked late in the game against Seattle, was essentially the principal reason they lost that game, above and beyond play calling and all those kinds of things. Like, he was the guy that got victimized for that drive that ended up losing the game for them. They need that version. They need last year's version to come back. And I understand it's not all them. The linebackers aren't where they were supposed to be, aren't who they were supposed to be. The defensive line isn't as dominant as it was supposed to be. There's a lot of problems in Philadelphia right now, which is why they're on a 3-game losing skid.
Yeah, I think the moves that the Eagles have made, because we spent so much time here last year glowing about the move that they made to pick up James Bradbury for the 2022 season. Because, look, Bradbury's career is fascinating to watch, Sam. Remember, he was in Carolina for 4 years, and he would go up against Julio Jones a lot. He'd go up against Mike Evans a lot, right? That dude, he was battle-tested. He went up against the Saints. He was battle-tested in that division. His grades would kind of fluctuate a little bit like a lot of corners do. And then he goes to New York, has a good season, and then a bad season. And then after the bad season, the Eagles picked him up for pennies on the dollar. That was a great move. But then they paid him after that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like if you buy low and pay low and you get this good reward, it's a great move. And then they went and paid him coming into the season, and he's over 30. It's his 30-year-old season, and it's been the worst season of his career from a grading standpoint.
Yeah, he's always had. I mean, we talk all the time about how cornerback is, an incredibly volatile position year on year. The grading, the performance is going to fluctuate wildly. Even in that in that context, Bradbury has been a wildly inconsistent player for his entire career. Like, he, of all corners, has been particularly prone to being either incredibly good or incredibly bad, and bounced all over the place in terms of performance. So coming off his career year, it probably should have been a red flag to be like, hey, is this actually going to happen again next year? Or, if he was on a 2-year deal, fair enough, right? Let's just keep him around. Cool. But when you knew you had to pay him big money to keep him around, you could question that.
Those are the tough moves. If I was consultant GM here, if I was in the seat, we should have done a GM segment.
I thought about it. I did think about it.
Should have done something, especially with the green screen. Would be.
Oh no, green screen with Elf, God, that wouldn't have gone well.
That wouldn't have gone well. That would just be my face.
Yeah,
floating, right?
Which itself would have been funny.
I think one of the tough moves as a GM, I think what the Ravens did this a couple years ago. Like they franchised Matthew Judon. And I thought, hey, they'll let him walk, and then whatever it is. It's almost like you double down. After a great high-value move, you double down the next year. It's kind of what the Eagles did. They had a great high-value move with Bradbury, and then instead of finding the next great high-value move, a comparable move, and letting Bradbury walk, they said, okay, we're going to pay him, and that's where it became a little risky. So in 1 year, he went from kind of like a great deal to a not-so-great deal because of the way he's performing this year. Mm-hmm. Trying to just bring some real analysis here to your Christmas gifts here.
Oh, I like
that's what I'm bringing to the table.
This one, oh look, they green screened you.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's what it would have looked like. Yeah.
That would be great.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's not great. A bad outfit.
I mean, you talk about Rob Lowe, man.
That's full.
Let me turn my head so I get like that. How do I get the NFL logo?
Right on your right on your head like Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Oh, they killed it now. That's a shame.
There it is.
Oh no, there it's back. There you go.
Sit up
higher. Oh, or go forward. Anyway, I had one more that I didn't give them as a. They're perfect. There's Rob Lowe right there.
This way.
One more that I didn't give them to create as a graphic, and somebody mentioned this in the chat. I think it was Drew Forsyth, and it's one we've been talking about all season long. You would gift the Detroit Lions a secondary pass rusher, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Anybody opposite
or the
Aiden
Jags.
Hutchinson. The Jags as well, yeah.
You've mentioned the Lions and the Jags as very similar in certain ways, and both of them have one very good pass rusher, Josh Allen for the Jags, Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions. Give me that second guy that's going to be productive.
I wonder.
Then you can make a little playoff run, both teams.
Yeah. He's done nothing this year and not played that much, but Justin Houston just got cut loose from the Carolina Panthers last year. He played pretty well. Like he brought 42 pressures a season ago, only brushed the passer 300 times, had a pass rushing grade over 75. He'd done that the year before as well. He's still just under 35, I doubt your expectations wouldn't be high, right? He's played this season for Carolina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his games have pass rushing grades in the 50s and had one or fewer pressures. So I'm not sure he's going to do anything, but as a kick the tires move, it's absolutely worth taking a swing at.
Yeah, this is officially the lowest pass rushing grade of his career. But look, 2020, Justin Houston with the Colts looked like that was his worst, and he came back last year for the Ravens, or for 2 years with the Ravens, 21 and 22, as a pretty productive player. I mean, he's aging the way I think a lot of edge rushers should, which is like barely play the run.
Yeah.
Just be a legit
guy.
Pass rush specialist, a situational guy that's going to play 400 or 500 snaps a year. Absolutely kick the tires on Justin Houston.
All right.
They really need James Houston to be healthy.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, that would have helped.
Right. If they could combine James and Justin into one super edge.
Well, that's what's fascinating about the Lions. I don't think it was a team-building failure because they had James Houston and how productive he was last year.
Yeah.
They had the Aquaras.
Oh, dude, sometimes
and they had Charles Harris, who'd been trending in the right direction. It was like they had 5 in Josh Pascal.
Yeah.
Like they had a lot of options.
Sometimes, that idea of, you diversify your portfolio so that no one thing can kind of, torpedo your finances and ruin you, all that kind of thing. Like sometimes everything can just turn to crap, right? You can do a really good job of divesting and hitting every single area and making sure like all of these spots so that something is going to work out, right? Even if most of them fail, one guy is going to be good and you're fine. The Lions kind of did that on the defensive line, and Hutchinson is great, and then everything outside of Hutchinson didn't work out, right? And okay, Alim McNeil is the other guy that would fit that, and James Houston as well, but he's like injury to James Houston, the Aquaras didn't work out, Pascal didn't work out. Like nothing that they've done at that position outside of that has worked out, so consequently they're in trouble, but they haven't. I think you're right. I don't think that indicates bad process. I think sometimes you can have good process and still get crap results.